It should be called flash justice. In California, dangerous criminals are being released early from prison back to the streets, only to prey on more innocent victims. While at the same time, state lawmakers are passing law after law, eroding the Second Amendment and denying law-abiding citizens the right to protect themselves. As California prosecutor Michelle Hennessy told me, she truly fears for the public's safety. Take a look.
It feels like it's worse than ever right now. This is my home. I grew up in California. I don't want to leave, but our legislators are making this a very dangerous place to live by their liberal policies and soft on crime positions. Proposition 47, Proposition 57, Assembly Bill 109. They all have the word safe or safety or safe neighborhoods or safe schools in the title, and they have not played out to make the public more safe. I think they're just in Sacramento living with their little utopian dream of a crime-free world by banning guns, but they're decriminalizing true crime and trying to give every benefit to real criminals, while at the same time making it more difficult for the average citizen to defend themselves in a time of rising crime and turning your law-abiding citizens into criminals by passing, frankly, ridiculous firearms restrictions. I sincerely fear for public safety. It started with AB 109. Certain felons, instead of doing their time in state prison, they started doing it in county jail. That was a way for the state to save money and reduce prison populations. And in addition to that, instead of being on parole, they are now on what's called post-community release supervision. And that's the problem.
Can they really keep track of them?
Well, we know they can't keep track of them. They're terrible criminal histories, murderers, rapists, child molesters, and they've disappeared into our communities, and no one's watching them.
Until their next victim.
Until their next victim. And that's just the sad truth. I'd say 100% of my perspective comes from meeting victims of crime and seeing how badly they are harmed. And softening criminal penalties for gun use is outrageous to me. The lack of penalty for violating conditions of early release and parole. Under AB 109, they're getting what's called flash incarceration, which means 10 days in jail. Is an example of how ineffective that is. The individual, Mr. Mejia, charged with killing Whittier police officer Boyer, had been released from prison about a year before that killing, and he had received 5 instances of flash incarceration for 5 violations of the terms of his release. Yet he was still out on the street, and in his statement to the police after his arrest, he told them he did it in part because of AB 109. He specifically named that law.
What did he say about the law?
Oh, he was mocking it. He said, this is a waste of the taxpayers' money. Then you had Prop 47, which reduced some drug crimes and thefts to misdemeanors, which had previously been felonies. That's when we started seeing a big increase in property crimes, and the criminals now brag. They know as long as they keep their thefts under $950, they're not going to jail. So they were in a revolving door system, laughing at police, knowing that if they were arrested, they would be out the next day, which they would. And as a result, the police just stopped arresting them. It's not worth the time spent to write the paper. And our most recent soft on crime initiative is Proposition 57. Again, billed as a public safety law, but what it really does is allow the state to release from prison anyone they want, to release them early. The voters were told it would only apply to non-violent criminals, but I've seen the regulations, and it includes violent criminals up to people serving life sentences.
So release the criminals, deny the law abiding their rights.
Right. When they're releasing violent felons into our communities who've served a fraction of their sentences, it makes me want to own guns. That's what it makes me want to do. You've got to be able to protect yourself because the state is not going to do it. It's personal for me. I am a prosecutor handling very, very serious crimes against really dangerous people and a lot of gang members. I feel like I have to be prepared to protect myself. And to me, it's a basic Second Amendment argument. If you're entitled to have a gun, you should be entitled to have all of the accessories intended to be used with that gun. Banning guns has never been the answer to reducing crime. I know it's a bizarre concept. Punishing criminals makes crime go down.
Do the police officers on the street feel like their hands are tied behind their backs?
Absolutely. The law enforcement community is at its wits' end. Crime is going up. Our legislators seem to be enabling that increase in crime. That is why we see this depolicing occurring. They can arrest someone for what used to be a felony. It's now a misdemeanor. There's no room in jail because of all the felons being shifted to the counties, and that person would walk right out the door. So why are they going to risk a potential incident to make an arrest of someone who's not going to be punished? It's hard to watch, honestly, and I am fearful for some of the legislation about restructuring the bail system. SB 10 and AB 42, they are so extreme in their proposals that they would be public safety disasters, in my opinion.
This bill does not consider the individual victim's safety as per the Constitution.
They basically want to eliminate monetary bail and set up a system where the county has to call people to remind them to come to court and arrange at no cost transportation, and anyone up to and including a person charged with capital murder would be entitled, in theory, to bail. People who are a public safety risk and should not be out of custody while awaiting trial. This has been such a losing battle for us in California with our very liberal legislators. I feel like I'm bailing a leaky boat. But it's politics. They can say whatever they want. It doesn't have to be true. They say they're about protecting the Constitution. We'll protect all of it. You can't pick and choose the pieces you like and ignore the rest. And that's what's happened to the Second Amendment. It has been treated like a second-class part of our Constitution. What's going on, particularly in California, is truly frightening. And people should have the right to defend themselves with the same level of force as the criminal who is trying to victimize them. And the criminals have guns.